I wasn't happy with Borgraff's save for a shot that was going wide, but that was really like pretty awful and
Yeah.
possibly like
On question of sport in a couple of
yeah,
years.
yeah. Like I think that's definitely like just the worst error of the weekend.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Football Spotlight. It's myself, Dan Conway, and my right hand man, Ross Ballock. We're here, and we're going to talk about game week 6 in the WSL. But we need to start with some breaking news. Millie Bright, Ross. Millie Bright announces her retirement from England international football. Thoughts and feelings in a couple of hours since it's broke.
Well, firstly, and I've got the text messages to back it up. I totally called it.
Yes,
I did say
I've
to
got to
you,
mention this. Ross did mention a couple of weeks back, 2 weeks ago, that you suspected that she was going to retire, and explain why you suspected that a couple of weeks ago.
think I think there's probably a few reasons. Like, I think she's getting to the kind of final part of her career. And I completely understand that, if you're a fan of men's football and you hear her talking about like workload for players, that you could probably like scoff at that a little bit and think that's silly. The women's game has professionalized and changed, so it's changing so quickly that for someone like her who's probably spent perhaps the first, I don't know, 10 years of her career playing semi-professional or like at least not fully professional, then the workload is big. And it's that recovery time to kind of get used to that, for particularly for a player who in footballing terms you'd say is on the wrong side of 30. I can understand. Also, in the summer she wasn't there for England, for various reasons, and they still did okay. Perhaps there's a feeling of um, she's left her shirt in a better place than when she picked it up, and there are players there. She's not leaving England necessarily in a hole. But you and I were just talking before we start recording. In terms of centre backs, England are actually doing okay. You've got Carter and Morgan, who are part of the European squad. Leah Williamson, when she's back from injury. Greenwood can play there. You've got Letitia having a really stellar kind of 18 months now at centre back for United. And then Arsenal have obviously been playing Reed at centre back for most of the games. And then, of course, you've got Wubben Moy, who isn't getting into the Arsenal team at the moment, but has already played for England. That's six centre backs. So I imagine there's a whole bunch of things. But for me, I think what really tipped it was, I think I read an interview of her recently where she talked about how winning the Champions League with Chelsea would be like her career pinnacle. And I guess it just made me wonder whether she didn't particularly miss or feel like she missed out on anything over the summer. And so, and again, when you factor in, she has her private life as well. Lots of games coming thick and fast for a team like Chelsea. More Champions League games this season with the change in format. The WSL, kind of those four teams are getting closer and closer to each other. So there are a higher demand in terms of like competitiveness. For me, it felt like perhaps all of those things together led me to believe that perhaps she was going to focus on Chelsea for the rest of her career. You know, 88 caps, 6 goals, Olympic Games for Great Britain, European champion, World Cup winner up. Like, that's a pretty decent CV that many international players will never be able to boast. So I think you've just got to say thank you and good luck. And yeah, I think more than anything, from a fan's perspective, you appreciate what she did, particularly leading England at that World Cup when Williamson wasn't able to play. But also, kind of cold analytical side of me says, well, it would be nice to have her, but it's not like we're short of players in that position. And perhaps maybe now's a good time. The World Cup's another 2 years ago. Would she be available at 34 years old for a World Cup? So all of those things in place, I think it's probably she has said it's the right decision for her, and you have to trust her and believe her. And like I said, I think in her case, slightly different to Mary Earps in the summer. But I think her case, maybe perhaps with Frank Kirby as well, you just thank you for what you have done. And as a fan, I'm pretty excited to see kind of what happens next.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've summarised it really well. That 88 caps, 6 goals. She owes us nothing. She's been a fantastic servant to the country, and she is she's got a bit of everything, and I can understand why she was one of those first names on the team sheet because she's got height, she's strong, and she can pass, and she's not afraid to get in the tackles. You mean she could put in some meaty, ferocious tackles, and she was fearless, and she was dominant in the air. You always felt reassured when a ball was coming in. If Millie Bright was challenging for it, Millie Bright will win that ball. And so it's a loss. It is a loss because there's always that squad depth of like if injuries happen. But you're right. At 32, that's not unusual for someone to retire where recovery's starting to take effect. You start to feel the knocks and takes a bit longer. So you can understand where she may feel that her body now she needs that extra bit of time, and she could do it when the international games come. That might give her that. Normally at clubs they'll give players some free time. They can go visit family, have some rest time, and once you turn that side of 30, having that extra rest time is probably valuable to your body in being able to compete in the league. And ultimately, it's Chelsea who pay her wages. So yeah, I can understand. I would like to have maybe seen her for another person, maybe a couple more years. I think she could probably still contribute massively, but I understand and I can respect that.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing for these upcoming games is just with Leah Williamson out. Bronze only came back for a minute or two on this weekend, and we'll talk about the Chelsea game next. But without her, without Bronze, perhaps you miss out a bit of that experience. But again, I think that's makes for some interesting, exciting times ahead for the Lionesses. Some choices for Serena Wiegman to make, and it'd be interesting to see not only does she pick in the squad, but who's going to captain those games as well. But yeah, like you said, she's been great. I think World Cup 22 when she or 23 when she led the Lionesses in Leah Williamson's absence. I thought she was fantastic that tournament. Probably one of the better players at a tournament where England were perhaps a bit patchy.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I think you feel a bit more at ease just because we're not there isn't a lack of talent or there aren't a lack of players who could step in. Obviously, Jess Carter played most of the Euros and did quite well. I thought Esme Morgan played very well when she was called upon. And, we've got Greenwood who can play there, Reed at Arsenal, Letizia at United, neither of whom have really had a proper chance or a chance at all with the Lionesses. So, like I said, it could make for some exciting and some selections and some freshness in the squad, which is perhaps what's needed with new coaching staff, the start of a new tournament cycle. It could be a really good thing for the Lionesses.
Yeah, and I think there's also a social element, and I could be wrong, but you got to remember that Millie Bright, her closest friends were Mary Earps, Rachel Daly. Rachel Daly retired, Mary Earps retired, and so there's maybe a social element where, and obviously Frank Kirby, that age group, her friendship group that she would socialise with when they're in training camps are now gone. I'm not saying she didn't have friends in the camp, but she maybe felt her age a bit, and maybe that had a part to play in the decision.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's interesting me, and I don't think we'll ever know, is only last week, I think on her own podcast, she said she was available for selection. And so the fact that the day before the squad's announced publicly she's retired tells me perhaps she wasn't going to be picked. And if that is the case, I don't think it looks particularly great for her, but I don't think it should tarnish the 88 caps and the performances, the solid performances she's always put in for the Lionesses.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, on to Chelsea then. Let's start with their game. Chelsea won. Chelsea at home. Chelsea won. Tottenham 0. Do you want to start us off? What you thought of the game, Ross?
Well, before that, and sticking with Millie Bright, it was her 300th professional appearance on Sunday, which is, again, another reason that could go in for reasons for retirement. That's a huge workload over a career. In terms of the game, I think my overwhelming feeling was that Chelsea were disappointing in the final third, and I was actually really quite disappointed. I mean, I don't say I don't think over the last 18 months, neither of us have been particularly impressed with Spurs. And then we spoke about them last week, how they'd stealthily climbed to third in the table and were starting to play some good stuff under their new manager. And for me, I came away with a bit of a sense of disappointment, because to me, it didn't feel like, it didn't look like that was a third place team, playing well, playing with confidence, and going out and trying to go toe to toe. And I can understand why perhaps you might not want to go toe to toe with Chelsea, but for me, I look at it and I go, Chelsea have played in midweek, so they more of their players have played more time than us. We've had a whole week to prepare. And we're playing well. If we lose one game, I don't think it would be the end of it wouldn't be the end of the season for Spurs. And so for me, just playing a little bit kind of on the back foot, not taking the game to Chelsea, I think in the context of how well they've started the season and how high they were in the table, how much more rest they had compared to Chelsea, I was a bit disappointed that, Chelsea were able to 66% possession, 27 shots, 68 top touches in Spurs box, 16 corners. And again, I think Chelsea having only forced kind of 3 saves from the goalkeeper and scoring 1 goal, that's why I felt in the final third just a bit disappointed by their performance. But the fact that third place team in the league, who should be coming into that game with confidence and with a whole week's rest, were just so passive, that for me kind of just was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I thought Tottenham, like I said, stealthily been climbing, been getting some really good results, and you thought they should have the confidence to go for it. Like, give them a game. If you're going to lose having gone for it. You mean giving them a challenge? But you're right. Chelsea reminded me. I think it was when they played against Brighton. It was a really similar kind of outcome where they had all the possession. They had a ton of shots. I think was it 28 shots, uh, but only 4 on target. And so it sounds like 28 shots sounds like it was a great game, but if you watched it, it was actually they were like toothless. You know what I mean? They were like they just they were off it. It sounded like a lot of shots, but the whole game in general, weren't at Chelsea operating at how Chelsea can. However, a positive for me that USA young player, 20 years old, Alyssa Thompson. I don't know if you were going to mention it, but she was the best thing of the game. Like, admittedly, we'll come to Kira Walsh's goal, but Alyssa Thompson stood out. Like, this girl, 20 years old, she looks a real player, and they've got a real find. She's come from Angel City. Uh, she has the potential to be really good from what I saw on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Chelsea, like during the week they drew in the Champions League, and I think it was Leanne Sanderson say like, "Oh, questions are going to be asked of like Bompastor," and you're like, don't she have like a 95% win ratio at Chelsea? Or I would guess at least 90%. The idea that someone is saying that is ridiculous. And at the end of the day, they walked away with 3 points. Was it their best performance? No. I think I think as we've seen with Leicester so far this season, if you are organised, you can keep the best teams at bay for a long time. I think, like I said, for me, just the idea of third place going to second or first place in the league and doing that was just seemed a bit disappointing. Just because I think Spurs have already got enough points this early in the season. They are not going down. They are not. They're not. Like I said, they're not getting relegated. They're not going to be pulled into a relegation fight. I would like to see that confidence. But yeah, I think in terms of individual performances, I think Thompson was the one that really stood out to me as well. Like early in the second half, she nearly had a goal. And I mean, I think a lot of that was possibly more gift from the goalkeeper. That could have been from Kopp, like just really poor handling. Um, but yeah, and that poor goalkeeping seems to be a theme this weekend in the WSL. But yeah, she really did put in a really good individual performance. She's the one that really stood out to me too.
Yeah, and we'll quickly touch on Kira Walsh's goal because not for the first time, Kira Walsh, Chelsea weren't at their best, but a big goal, an important goal to win a game, and she's done it. She's a big player for good, big moments, and credit to her outside the box, buried it bottom corner. It was a great goal for her, for someone
Yeah,
who doesn't score many goals, but when she does, not normally good.
they tend to be pretty good ones, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah,
What is it? I think for me, I think again, yeah, it was probably one that perhaps um maybe you'd look at the goalkeeper a little bit in terms of positioning or being able to cover the goal. But actually, it was a couple of minutes earlier that Ellie Carpenter kind of similarly, hit a nice shot that just went over the bar from about 25 yards out. And then Walsh did the same thing not long afterwards and got hers on target. So Spurs had been warned, and at that point, I think Chelsea were kind of like, we're going to start not shooting from everywhere, but we're going to start taking chances when they open up in front of us from distance, just because it's great having 68 touches in Spurs box, but we're actually not getting shots away, or they're being blocked, or just the quality of the finishing wasn't quite there. Um, but yeah, so I think for me, like Ellie Carpenter had warned them a couple of minutes earlier, but it was a great goal from Kira Walsh. It was really nicely hit, very clean strike. But I think for me, I would still be like, it's not like it went into the top corner. It was in the bottom corner. It was not along the ground ish, but I think perhaps maybe a different goalkeeper, someone different might have stopped it. It's not one you wouldn't look at that and say that's a goalkeeper howler. Not as much as, like I said earlier in the second half, if that shot from Thompson had gone in, you would have looked squarely at Kopp. But yeah, I think with that one, I think there's no argument to like that. Kira Walsh's technical ability that includes like not just like her passing or range passing, but the way she strikes a ball, and that was a real example of like a real clean, crisp strike. And I think you'd probably say on a balance of play, it was deserved. Like Chelsea weren't at their best, but they probably deserved to walk away with those points just because of how passive Spurs were and how few opportunities they created for themselves.
yeah, no, I think you're right. They did deserve it. Okay, let's roll in. Let's segue into goalkeeping errors. Do we want to do Liverpool or London City Lionesses first? Which match?
Is that how you're establishing the
We'll
game?
say, yeah. We'll talk about. Should we do Liverpool or line? Yeah, hang on. Where's Liverpool? So on Liverpool, yeah. I personally, I don't feel uh, Borgath needed to do that acrobatic save. Like she did an acrobatic save, And up until that point, so Liverpool won, Man City 2. Up until that point, Liverpool were in the game. Like Man City were similar to like a bit Chelsea. They weren't doing a lot. They had the possession, but it didn't feel like they were going to score. You know what I mean? And Liverpool had some confidence. They were gaining momentum and confidence. And then Borgoff, I don't know what she was thinking, but she did an acrobatic save where I didn't feel like the save warranted it. Then she parried it, and it led straight into Benny's feet, and she put it away. It was
Yeah,
disappointing.
like when you say up to that goal, Liverpool were in the game. Like they were 1-0 up, very luckily. Um, like this was the one game I was able to catch live this weekend. And you're right, like the ball comes in from a wide position, and sure, it's like a glancing header. The ball's going wide. It's not on target, in my opinion. The ball's going wide, and for whatever reason, um, yeah, for whatever reason, she decides to dive and parry the ball. But there was also nobody in a red shirt and Liverpool shirt for her to parry it to. She hasn't parried it hard enough to go out for a throw, and she hasn't parried it behind her to go out for a corner. Both of which I think would have been absolutely horrendous outcomes for Liverpool. But actually, it turned out there could be worse because yeah, straight into feet, and she just. It was almost like she couldn't quite believe that the ball had come to her. But that game, first half, Liverpool were really, really poor, really poor, and like to the point where I'm watching the game and I'm seeing Man City players just like lean Liverpool players off the ball, and that was it. Like just not not even shoulder barges. Like they were literally like leaning on them and winning the ball back. Like it was really soft. I was really disappointed with the performance. And actually, like there might have not been loads of clear cut chances, but that first half particularly, it was like watching an attack v defense drill in in training, where like coach would stand on the halfway line and roll a ball in, the attack attacks, and if it goes wide or it goes out somewhere, they just all reset and go again. Liverpool just could barely get out of the half. Again, they've got Mia Enderby playing up front by herself with huge disconnection between her and the midfielders. I felt as well like a sense of like bad luck in terms of like Hobbinger getting injured in the first half, and it looks like that could be potentially quite a serious one, unfortunately for her, with a knee issue. But you know, we've talked about Borgraffer and you know that error. Like she had made one good save, and so City had kind of already had a shot across the bow for Liverpool. But overall, like the first half in particular was really poor from Liverpool, and I felt that they were. It was against the run of play really for Capox to score, but it was a great goal. Like Holland swings the ball in from the right hand side, it gets all the way through everybody to the back post, and kind of the ball skids off the ground. So it's not an easy chance for Capox to get a head onto and to put it in the back of the net. But I think what Liverpool, I mean, I could talk about this for longer than we probably
I was
should.
going to ask you about the offside, your opinion on the offside.
Well, she was offside. Obviously, Benet got her goal to make it 1-1, and then Firmino took Man City 2-1 in lead in the 86th minute, and then in stoppage time, Liverpool had a goal disallowed for offside. She was offside. Like I've got no qualms about the decision. Nothing like last week with the penalty decision down in London. You know, it was the correct decision, but you know, Liverpool have scored 2 goals this season. Capox has scored both of them, but I just, for me,
Do
I
you?
see some improvements at Liverpool.
That's what I was going to
I
ask. Where do you feel? Yeah, where the direction is it going anywhere?
It is in certain phases. Like already, I can see there's a noticeable difference between how good their pressing is this season to last season, and that's a good thing. But trying to play out from the back, trying to play for the thirds, this like possession-based style that Taylor has, I just I don't think the players available to him are of sufficient quality to play that game. And actually, there's clearly like a really big need for a striker, a striker. You can't. I don't think you can even say like a proven striker, but somebody who you have confidence to put the ball in the back of the net. And I don't know who that is, but what so far, like Mia Enderby doesn't seem to be the answer, and I feel sorry for her because I don't think that's her natural position. But for me, at the moment, I wonder whether perhaps it's worth playing a bit more to the players you have. The pressing's got really good really quickly, which is great to see. So just play a bit more direct, turn it more into a game of duels, or where perhaps you can press a bit higher and be a bit more direct. But yeah, I'm not I'm not concerned yet. I think I probably will be if West Ham beat Liverpool at some point this season, or if they get a win before Liverpool do. But I would also say in the first 5 games that they've played, because obviously the Villa game was postponed. They've played Man City, they've played Man United. It's not been an easy start. London City Lionesses away. They are not your ordinary team coming up from WSL 2. I think they'll be disappointed by losing to Leicester, even away from home. Although Leicester are proving a lot of people, including myself, so far this season. And obviously, London City, horrendous referee decision, perhaps took a point from them. But I just wonder whether rather trying to implement everything at once, you've got the pressing, good, but there were just times where, to me, the only player who really looks ready to kind of play that game is Nagano. She seems to be the only one really at the level to play the type of game that he wants to play. And I just wonder whether, like, you've got talent there with Kerr, and Hobbenjo's injured, but McLean, who came on, did okay. There are like decent like work rate players there. But I just wonder whether maybe you get Nagano closer to whoever plays up front and just be a bit more direct. But for me, I look at that team, and it's not like he's making lots of changes each week. So it seems to be the same team, same group of players that he's using each week. Garner seems to be the only one who's got the composure and technical ability. And I just wonder whether maybe play her a little bit closer to the striker for that final killer ball that perhaps could help them score a bit more. But there's a reason that he's on the bench and I'm not. That's just as a fan looking in. There were just times yesterday where trying to play through Man City and
You're not going to do it.
No, they just weren't good enough to pull that off. And like I said, I do see improvements and there are extenuating circumstances, but I just wonder whether you just go, okay. He said in an interview a couple of weeks ago, I think it might have been The Athletic, where he talked about how he wanted Liverpool to be like the best pressing team in women's football. Okay, great. So if that, you can concentrate on pressing, that's fine. Forget about the other stuff. Play like any player. Any player should be able to run and press and recognise triggers and position themselves good enough for them to be a help to the team. But not everybody can take the ball like in control under pressure and play it on and do that quickly and scan and all those things that the great players do. And so yeah, for me, like I said, I just wonder whether if the pressing's the big part of it, and that's the big improvement I do see, play a bit more directly, get your best player in a position to maybe sharpen the attack a bit more if you're going to be more direct and utilize pace of the players you have, or just by winning the ball up higher and then playing forward rather than coming back and round in a horseshoe shape like I saw a lot of at Leicester. Then perhaps maybe some things could fall into place, but that's not the way he wants to do it, and that's fine. But I do see some improvements. I think the big worry will be if West Ham pick up a win before Liverpool do, or if they meet each other and the result goes the wrong way. Because at the moment is those two bottom of the WSL, neither with a win, neither with any points, and it's goal difference. I think that's probably the only thing you can hang your hat on the moment. It's not like Liverpool are being stuffed 4-5 every week. You know, 1-0 away at London City with a dodgy penalty. There's no real shame in that. 2-1 at home to a very good Man City team. There's no real shame in that. Um, yeah, I see some improvements. I understand there are some circumstances around the lack of progression this summer, but you hope that isn't the case for the rest of the season. Um, I'm not saying I think he'll get fired, but I think they would be silly not to look at their options if something doesn't change soon. And having said all that, I feel bad that we've not said really anything about Man City, who were good value for their win. Um, I thought both, the first goal should never have happened, but Iman Benet is going to be a superstar. She
She looks good.
she has taken to the WSL really, really well, and with Hem and Carolina out, it was quite easy to go. They were dangerous players for them. But yeah, she is going to be a superstar. And I also thought that Blinkilda Brown in centre midfield was another really good performance with her next to Hasagawa. And I wouldn't be surprised to see her in the Lionesses squad next week
Yeah,
or
I
this
think
week.
tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow morning. Yeah, we'll see if she's announced. But I think Blinkilde Brown's been playing very consistently, very good. Um, that whole midfield role, keeping that tempo, she's been very good. Okay, should we go on to? Should we go to the big scoring game? One
You
sec.
don't you don't want to stay on the theme of goalkeeper errors and do
Oh,
London
should we
City.
go? We'll go to London City Lionesses. Come on then. So London City Lionesses won. West Ham nil. The the goal here. I'll show you what I said. Here's my point on it.
WTF.
It was well. Let's go back. I felt hard done by a little bit for West Ham because it was if you're gonna win, you want to be beaten by a great goal, but it was like a really bad howler. And you know what? It's interesting because the Lionesses, it's still not quite happening, is it? Like you see the odd glimpse of the players working, starting to gel, but it's still not coming together as because we're 6 games in now. You'd have thought there had been some progression. I'm not saying it won't happen. I think it will because there's too much quality in that team, but it's not finding its rhythm yet, is it?
Yeah, I think we spoke about last week, and I guess the only real I don't really know. I don't know kind of his style of play. And again, another team who've been fairly passive in games that I've watched, and I don't know if that is a bedding in period or whether this is just how he sets up teams. I think yesterday, I guess if you're West Ham, you must be thinking when it's all going wrong, it's going wrong. Because actually I thought it was quite an even game. I thought both teams had some good chances. I think both goalkeepers made some decent saves. Say hit the post after about 20 minutes with a cracking effort from about
So
25 yards out.
West Ham grew into the game. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they had that early chance as well. Say, like I said, she hit the post from about 25 yards out, about 20 minutes into the game. I think overall it was a really even game. Like I said, I don't know whether that is London City Lionesses. Like I said, everyone's massive turnover of squad this summer, so there is naturally going to be a period of getting used to things, and some of those players have come away from WSL or English football, so naturally there is going to be a bedding in period. I think. I mean, how would you how would you describe the goal? If someone said, what happened? If someone said to you, what happened? I've not seen it. Like, how would you describe it?
You describe it like the keeper. The keeper basically throws the ball in the net effectively. Um,
No. She so the ball's gone out for a West Ham goal kick.
yeah,
One of
sorry.
one of the
Yes, the
West
player
Ham
comes in
centre
and
backs
steals it.
plays it kind of 3 yards
Yeah.
to a left to the keeper, as
Yes.
they do. So and the keeper's got the ball by her feet, and she's looking to her left, and she's pointing at someone, and in her blind side to her right, you've got Asiani
Sane, yeah.
comes in, and she gets closer and closer, and like it's like when I first watched it, almost like it was a slow motion. And you're like, like classic Chariots of Fire, like slow motion. She's coming in, and I'm like, she's going to clear the ball in a second. She's going to realise that she's coming in. She's going to realise that and Asiani just takes the ball off her foot and just puts it in an empty net from 6 yards
I
out.
know. Credit to Aslani for like the uh, I don't know
Hustle.
what. Yeah, the hustle and that experience came through of a top player, but
Yeah, and
it's
she
an awful
shape
way
and
to lose.
and I think she does quite purposefully shape her run towards the keeper. Seeing that the keeper's looking one way, I think she does purposefully kind of shape her run so that she's not necessarily in like um the keeper's like peripheral vision. But at the same time, like I'm looking at it, and I think it was Sangare who might have played it across. No, not Sangare. Tisiak, who kind of like played that short ball across to the keeper. But the centre back on that right hand side, who's literally just played that 3 yard pass, like I'm looking at it, and you see in the replay, like Endo, the right back, sees what's going on and starts shouting, but nobody else really seems to react. And then as soon as as Aslani like takes the ball off her foot, the keeper just kind of like drops to her knees and puts her head in her hands, which I guess is the only reaction. But for me, I I don't think you're just disappointed with the complete lack of concentration. I think you've also got to be disappointed that not many other players on the team seemed to
React.
react or communicate in any way. And perhaps that's a misreading from me, but it was one of those goals that, like, in like 15 years' time, if they ever resurrect Question of Sport, it'll be one of those like,
Yeah.
what happens next? Like the ball will get played across, the keeper will take a touch, start pointing, they'll freeze it, and what happens next? And you got to guess, and it'll be comedy gold or whatever. But yeah, like I said, for that, not only for that to happen, but to happen like maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes before the end of the game, for a team away from home without a win this season, you thought perhaps they were going to hold out. Well, not even hold out, but hold their own and come
You thought
away
they
with
were,
their first point.
yeah. You
So, like
thought
I
they were
said,
gonna
that's where you go back. If you're Rhiannon Skinner, you might be going, well, when it rains, it pours. It's
on
all,
Rianne Skinner.
yeah.
Is she under pressure?
Well, yeah, she is. Of course, she is. They're 6 games in, 0 wins, 0 draws, 0 points. Of course, you're under pressure, but
Players, tactics, both.
well, I just think you you look at the back end of last season, had Say and Martinez banging goals in for fun,
Yeah.
and I don't think either of them have registered one yet this
I think
season.
Martinez has scored one.
She might have scored one. Okay, I think what again, it's a bit like watch the Brighton Hove Albion game, West Ham game a couple of weeks ago. And it's a bit similar to what I saw on Sunday with Liverpool, where it's just like you're trying to play this, you're trying to execute this tactical model, play this style of football that the players clearly aren't good enough to do. So you've either not recruited well enough for your style of football, or your resources are such that you're shopping in the grocery aisle that you can afford, in which case perhaps you need to perhaps you need to like rejig what it is you want to do and play to the strength of the players you have. Yeah, it is a strange one, but obviously, like last season, the rate that Asai and Martinez were scoring, I think we all kind of looked at it and went, is that going to carry on? Because if it is, they're not going to be at West Ham very long. But
They've
that
shown
rate,
glimpses
yeah,
of just
that rate isn't going to be there. And I don't know. Again, is that a structural thing? Players behind them not getting the ball in the right positions, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think any manager who is 0 from 6 the season is under pressure, and it's not like they were finished surprisingly high in last year's table either. So I'm sure there is pressure, but uh,
yeah.
it's tough because you'd say, well, after 6 games, come on, let's give him a chance. But it's not like Ryan Skinner has just started there, and also
It's not our first WSL club.
no, but also when you have 22 games in a season, 6 is a lot.
Yeah,
Six is a
yeah,
lot.
quarter.
It's almost a quarter of the season gone. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just like I said with Liverpool, I looked at it and like I said, you put your hat on the fact that it's not like they are getting hit for 4s and 5s every week. But I mean, I look at West Ham that they've conceded 17 goals in 6 games, and they've scored 2. Like I said, they're played 6, won none, drawn none, lost 6. Goal difference -15. Bearing in mind that 11 points last season would have kept you in the league. Yes, she is under pressure. Do I think
Morale
they
was
can
low.
make any big changes? Probably not. And like I said, I think as a manager, that game yesterday, I think you could probably go away and go, what can I do about that? My goalkeeper's made like an error she probably will never make again. But at the same time, we've kind of held our own against a team who, yes, have just come into the WSL, but have also spent more money than most of the teams combined in transfer outlays. And so you go, if we can hold our own against them away from home, maybe things are starting to move in the right direction. But yeah, it was an absolute howler. I wasn't happy with Borgraph's save for a shot that was going wide, but that was really like pretty awful and possibly like
On question of sport in a couple of
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. Like I think that's definitely like just the worst error of the weekend.
Uh, on to speaking of 4s and 5s, let's go on to Man United 4. Well, Everton 1, Man United 4. Man United had 65% possession. They had 14 shots and 7 on target, and Everton had 7 shots, 2 on target. Everton held Man United for the first half. So that if you look at the score 4-1, you think, oh, they probably would have done it. But actually, Everton held them for the first half. Melvin Mallard came away with a 5th goal of the season. She's starting to look pretty good. She's having a cracking season for her by terms. Last season, Mallard had 4 goals in 17 league games last year, and this year, 5 goals in 6 games. So she's really found a rhythm and hit form. Why do you think that might be? Any thoughts on that, Ross?
Well, if teams keep giving her as much room to run into as Everton did at the weekend, then it might
Even
continue.
picking.
I think we all I think I've said this before. We always forget the human in the footballer, and you wonder whether last season was just acclimatization to the league, acclimatization to the country, the team, the manager, role in the team. All those things are different. I think it helps that um, that defensive platform is so strong.
Gives
at
you confidence,
United.
doesn't it?
Well, but not just that, but also like between the back four, the goalkeeper, and for me, kind of is standing out quite a lot this season is Miyazawa as their kind of defensive midfielder. It allows those five attacking players like Mallard, Turland, Narsland, Toon, Rolfo. They've got a lot more freedom to go because that back six is so solid and so well organised. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I,
I was,
I felt that yesterday she was given a lot of space to run into, and if you give Mallard space to kind of turn on the gas, like she's going to leave most players for dead anyway. I mean, 4-1 sounds like an absolute beat down boulevard. It,
the
it,
game was 2 half.
well, yes and no. I mean, I thought the first half wasn't a great a great spectacle. And actually, I felt Everton. I know this might sound like sour grapes from a Liverpool fan, but I thought Everton's first goal, like it's come from a free kick that was never a free kick. Like fair play, Katie Robinson. If you can fall on the floor like that and win a free kick, good for you. But it was never a free kick. I don't know why the referee who was
Well, yeah,
miles
it wasn't at
away
all.
or the assistant who was literally 2 feet away. I don't know why either or both or one of them like gave it. Absolutely no idea at all. I mean, I thought, but once you had that, you like, I thought the free kick that came in was really whipped in by I think it was Kitagawa who put it in. Lots of pace on it, right at that front post, and really like Taylor's Joyce. Everything she could do was kind of scramble across and punch the ball. Unfortunately for her, it kind of dropped inside, kind of like the kind of 8 yards out of the box. The United players just didn't react quick enough, and Hayashi just smashed it into the back of the net, and that was 16 minutes in, and you give a team something to hold on to. It can make the rest of the afternoon really difficult, but yeah, the second half United kind of took over. But again, if you look at it, goals. It was an hour before they had that breakthrough. The second goal was a really unusual own goal in the
Yeah.
sense that like
Kitty
Kitagawa
Gal.
seemed to hook the ball behind her into the net. I think she probably just
It was a
used.
great finish.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it was a great finish, but obviously that's just a player who is trying to is in a situation where they want to clear the ball and they just go at it with their strongest foot, even though it's not the right foot to go with it in relation to positioning, body shape, etc. So it was a really odd goal to have let in, and it didn't really give him a chance. But then Jess Park um, seems to have settled in really nicely over in the red half of Manchester. Another 2 goals for her, both assisted by Ella Toon, who I think that's like fourth and fifth assists of the season.
She's doing
Um,
well for goals and
as,
assists. She's done a great season.
as well as a couple of goals this season. So she's really having a great year too. But yeah, it was 4-1 was probably a bit harsh on Everton in terms of the fact that, the two of those goals were kind of in 84th, 89th minute, an own goal. But yeah, I don't think it's any huge surprise to see United having a good season. They've got a really good core there. I think I was surprised that they made the deal with Clinton and Park to swap.
Yeah, it was an odd one.
And
It caught me off guard.
yeah, I think it caught a lot of people off guard. But like I said, Jess Park's really settled in really quickly there. And
Do you
against
think she starts herself in the England squad tomorrow?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I'd be confused if she wasn't,
Yeah, yeah.
especially with people who are absent. I mean, that attacking midfield is not short of people who deserve a go or are already kind of in Wiegman's thinking. But yeah, you know, I think Mark Skinner's done a really good job there. I don't think that's a huge surprise. His Birmingham teams always punched above their weight in terms of resources. Um, and for a guy who kind of 18 months ago had his own fans waving fake, redundancy paperwork at him in the stands, not happy with how things were turning out. I think he was probably the public face who was taking the brunt of things that were happening behind the scenes in terms of, people like um, Alessia Russo, Batil, and Grace Clinton not wanting to extend contracts at United. Um, but yeah, he's done a great job there. That, like I said, we've raved already this season about that United defensive unit, and like I said, if you know you're solid at the back, your attacking players can play with some confidence and some freedom. That if they were to lose the ball in a dangerous area, that there's a good chance that it's not necessarily going to cost them. So yeah, I think overall, kind of deserved win for United. They did dominate the ball. They did dominate the chances. Everton took that early lead, and kind of my impression was the idea was let's see this out type thing. And again, that they did okay for 60 minutes, but you keep allowing United those chances, that quality that they have up front will eventually break through.
I wanted to give a shout out to Miyazawa as well for her through ball. I think through ball for Melvin Mallard's first goal. It was a lovely side of her foot. It was a nice pass.
Yeah. Do you
Okay.
have do you have any idea why Everton were playing at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, the new
Oh,
stadium?
it baffles me. But if they've just got been gifted, they've just been gifted Goodison Park, and so what should we do? Let's not play at it. So they're one of the few women's teams that have their own stadium, and they decide to play at the men's stadium, which obviously we're trying to keep. I don't know. If you've got a point, if you've got an opinion why that happened, I'd be interested. But it confused me.
Yeah, I don't either. I thought it was quite interesting that afterwards they asked Mark Skinner, the United manager, about it, and he said, "Oh, the fact that we've played at Old Trafford and we've played at Wembley quite a lot over the last couple of years." He said that he felt that kind of played into their hands to United's hands to be playing at a bigger stadium. They had a decent turnout. It was like 18, just over 18,000. But like you, I'm like you're the only WSL team that has your own like ground, and it's new to you. Like you're still trying to make that home first. Like the idea of it almost seemed like it was uh I don't know, some kind of like, oh, look at us, look what we're doing type thing. But yeah, like for me, I'm just like, you're the only team in the league that has their own ground, and you're still trying to make it home. Like, make it home. But I generally thought it was. I was really interested when Mark Skinner said that the big stadium kind of played into their hands because of the experience they've had playing at big stadiums over the last couple of years. And I wonder if maybe someone was trying maybe a bit too hard at Everton to get some publicity out of it. I don't know. I mean, it's great for Everton fans, particularly Everton fans who can't get tickets to men's games to go and experience that stadium. And by all accounts, it is incredible. But yeah, you would have thought like they've been getting good turnouts at Goodison. And I think a lot of that is possibly like it's quite close to where a lot of Evertonians live in the city, but also like B, like some people perhaps go into those games to because they can't get tickets to the men's games, or they just want to kind of keep that connection with Goodison as a fan. And I thought that was really playing into their hands with some decent turnouts this season. I mean, 18,000 is great, but 18,000 inside Goodison would have looked even better compared to what the new stadium is, what, 50,
50,000. Yeah.
60,000. Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I could maybe understand in a couple of years' time, but why now when you're
Yeah.
still getting used to things? But
I think it was. I think they'll reconsider. I think it'll be a while until they do that again. I can't see that happening. Uh, Aston Villa nil, Leicester nil. It was a draw. Uh,
0-0's a draw.
yeah. Thank you. Villa dominate, but held to a draw by Leicester is what I've summed it up as. They had six. Here's what I'll sum up as: is that Villa couldn't. They wouldn't have hit a barn door like at the weekend. They should have won 5-0 at
They should be
least.
3-0 up at half time.
Yeah. And I know we're big fans. We've been of Ebony Salmon, but it was not her day. I don't know if she was nervous that England squad was getting announced and the nerves got the better of her, but she should have had a hat trick in the first half, if I remember correctly. Um,
Well, she'd have no reason to be nervous. It's not like, as far as anyone's really, I don't see a lot of other people talking about her, and it's not like, oh, she was, she was really close to the last squad or anything like that. I know you've got to play the games in front of you. There's still League Cup, and for those in European games before the England game, so it shouldn't even be in a headspace. But yeah, her and I think it was
Ron,
Grant both had
yeah.
really good chances kind of the first 15, 20 minutes, and all three of them were just inside the box, just hit straight to the goalkeeper with
I know
very little pressure on it.
it was like one on ones. It was like, and a lot of them, and I think it was almost like if they if Daly had he just wanted basically Rachel Daly's clinical sense just on the end of them two that day because they had the pace, but they just lacked that clinical finish.
Yeah.
And
And
if I was Aston Villa, I would be gutted. You'd go home really gutted. It wasn't like we had a hard earned draw, but we dropped 2 points today, and we only got ourselves to blame.
yeah, I think there will be a little bit of that. I think kind of the stats may be a bit misleading in the sense that I felt kind of like the attacking stats that that were released after the game. I think a lot of those were probably kind of the first kind of 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes. I felt there was kind of 40 to 50 minutes in the middle of the game where Leicester, we've talked about them already this season, just really well organised, like really grafting for each other. Um, Obviously, like this week, they announced that Rick Passmore got the manager's job full time on a 3-year deal. That will bring some real kind of stability for them.
They've looked all right, haven't they? They've looked all right under him.
Well, I think that's probably doing them a disservice. Are they the team that I would pay my own money to go watch? Probably not. But they are ninth in the league.
They've looked better than
They
Liverpool and West Ham, and
and
we'll probably
Everton.
put Leicester at the bottom.
Yeah, they have only conceded 8 goals this in their first 6 games. So again, if I'm talking about Liverpool, the strength of theirs is they're not being blown out the water by teams. It's the same for Leicester. I think they've got a game plan, and I really hope for a while they stick to it and just establish themselves. I mean, I was a bit. I always recall a little bit like literally like the interview that Passmore gave after they announced kind of the 3-year deal. It was like, yeah, we wanna play more attacking football. We want to dominate possession where we can. And you're just like, no, what you're doing right now is fine. What you're doing right now is fine. Like I said to you, like last season, 11 points would have kept you league because Palace only got 10 the entire season and they were gone. If you're Leicester, you must be looking at it and going, there are two teams that have not won any games yet. We're already on 5 points. Only one team is going down. Whether there should be relegation or not, that's a whole different discussion for a different podcast. But only one team is going to go down. We've already got half the amount of last year's. Like, I I don't think you can sit there and go, "Oh, we're fine. Don't worry about it." But they've had a great start to the season. Absolutely. incredible. They, like I said, they are, you know, only lost 1-0 away to Chelsea, beat Liverpool 1-0. Like I said, that it's not, they're so well organised and they're so well set up and drilled, and they are working so hard. I think McLaughlin, I think they're signing from one of the Scottish teams in the summer. I think she's come in and looked like an absolute workhorse in the middle. And, you know, I think there's a lot of players there who perhaps have probably come into the season and heard that like stupid podcasters have been saying that they're definitely going to go down, and have gone, no, we're not having any of that. Um, you know, so I doff my cap to them. Fair play.
Yeah,
They are going home and away. They are they are sticking with how they're doing things for the moment, and I hope they keep doing that.
yeah.
But they are staying in games until late periods of the game. They're not being blown away by anybody. They're working really hard for each other. There's some quality there, and it's working for them. At the end of the day, they're picking up points. At this rate, they will have 20 odd points by the end of the season, and they will be fine. They will be nowhere near a relegation battle. And like I said, at the moment, as long as Liverpool and West Ham remain remain winless, they've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And I just say fair play to them. We
Goes
spoke
back to
about
what you're saying,
before.
isn't it? That like you just got to hope that they stick. Don't start getting ahead of yourself. Stick to what you're doing and what's working.
Yeah. For the moment, absolutely. Yeah, until you can change that with recruitment or some investment. They have an amazing training ground. I think the only women's team with their own training ground. That I don't know if that's still right, but it's an amazing training ground. I've been there myself. Amazing facilities for them to utilize. And if they could stay in the WSL, and if they can, they're in a bit of a pickle because the men's team are in a real financial pinch at the moment, and but like you said, under those circumstances, they just keep doing what they're doing and stay in the league. That is that should be success for them this season. Staying in the league should be success for them. At the moment, they're making mugs of me and every other nump that you said they were going to go down well easily. By far and away the worst team. Making fools of us all, and fair play to them.
Yeah, fair, well put. Okay, last game. Arsenal won, Brighton nil. So Arsenal win. Arsenal earned their first win in 5 games. I'm surprised to be saying that. So Arsenal are fifth in the WSL table. Did we expect Arsenal to be fifth after 6 games? I'll be honest, I didn't. I expect them to be competing more, especially after obviously the Champions League heroics. What did you think of the game, the result, and how Arsenal are doing in general?
Mm. They lost, but actually, I thought Brighton were really good again. Obviously, they were without Agyemang and Kafaji, who are both on loan from Arsenal, so couldn't play against them. Again, away from home, I think a lot of teams will find the Emirates a tough place to go, just because the Arsenal women's team have that culture, that history ingrained from successes, you know, seasons past. 20, I think it's 20, just over 27,000 at the Emirates.
They do really well.
Yeah, and somebody can look at that and go, "Well, it was 50% empty then," and you go, "Yeah, but they will get people turn up to those games every week. The stadium won't be full all the time, and it will probably mostly be half full, but it's a big pitch, it's a big stadium. Teams aren't always used to doing that. But I thought that Brighton were decent. I thought that Kirby and Seke, I thought they were both at the heart of everything good that Brighton did. And actually, when you look at the game, you know, Arsenal seem to have an issue at the moment with they start really well and then it kind of just fades away. It's almost as if, I would say probably the first 15 minutes yesterday, they could have 3 or 4 goals. They got one, and it was an own goal, fair, a bit fortunate, but nothing more than they deserved for that first kind of 15, 20 minutes. I thought Olivia Smith in particular looked like if
Yeah,
anyone
she
was
was
going to get a breakthrough, it was going to be her. And, it was her that kind of forced that Ola Slegers to kind of put the ball into the back of her own net. And it is unfortunate. But just like as I was against West Ham, I came away from that really impressed with Brighton. But with two of their biggest attacking threats this season, obviously not able to play, players came in and they did their jobs, and they forced Van Domselaar into a few really good saves. There was one in particular with Camacho. The ball's coming from, I think it's wide right from Sike or Seke. Ball's come in. Camacho's lovely glancing header, and Van Dom's just had to tip it round the
yeah,
post. They really gave Arsenal a run for their money. I think Arsenal probably deserved it on the balance of play overall. But I think the big worry for Rene Slegers will be really good starts, not able to carry on. And I think that's something they've got to look at. I think they're obviously, I think not the big thing, but important part of the game really was there was like a 10-minute delay.
yeah.
And Palme, she took a ball to the face and was knocked out, and you hope for her speedy recovery. Obviously, you don't want to see any player in a with a bad injury or in a bad way. But yeah, if I think if you're Arsenal, you'll look at it and you go, we started really well and kind of lost the game. If you're Brighton, you're saying we went away to the current Champions League holders, went to their backyard, two of our best attacker players missing, and we gave them the game, and that is only going to be good for their confidence. But there is too much quality in that Arsenal squad for for them not to eventually get out of this rut. And yeah, it's their first win in 5, but how many of those games have they lost? And I think again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like 22 games isn't a lot, so 6 games, nearly quarter of the season gone. You might look at it, and I think possibly there's every chance at the end of the season they might look at this little 5-game run and go, "That's cost us the title." Um, I'm not going to sit here now only 6 games in and say they definitely lost it.
No,
I
I
made a
think we were
mistake predicting
expecting.
Leicester to go down.
Yeah, we were expecting. I think because of how Arsenal, how well they did under Renee Slagers when she took over, and obviously they won the Champions League as underdogs. But I think we were expecting them to kick on and to be more of a threat. And like I said, I think they are in a rut. Arsenal, they do have too much quality, as you mentioned, and they will come out of it. Brighton can feel a little bit like, obviously, like I said, they can't play Kafaji and Agmiang, but you think if they had them two, they could have possibly come over a point. But overall, you're right. Arsenal deserved to win. Olivia Smith, she'd be unfortunate that she didn't feel it was her goal because it was her shot that obviously deflected in. But yeah, it's
And the rules, Dan.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The rules.
So they'll be
I'm,
all right.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure Ola Slegers was like, no, you can have it. You can have it.
Yeah, the argument there.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I'm not going to say they're definitely out of it. Like there is far too much quality, and there are players still to come back who aren't playing at all. I think the biggest one's Leah Williamson, their captain, centre back. Obviously, that's provided a great opportunity for Reed to
Yeah,
play, and that's a great thing for her. I wonder whether she was always going to play, or whether this is just creating an opportunity for her. Yeah, there's just too much quality in that squad for this to carry on. Like I said, in those 5 games, it's not like they're being beaten by everybody. I just think they're getting these quick starts and they're turning wins into draws, and um, chances are, because the season is so short in terms of number of games, just this little blip to catch up with the other teams. Well, to catch up with Chelsea and United and Man
It could
City,
cost.
it's definitely going to hamstring them. I still think there's every chance they finish second. Still, they have a chance of winning the league. Still, obviously, it's not mathematically impossible, but yeah, I think there's probably every chance they'll look back at this early season hangover. Perhaps probably the best way to describe it, and just think, if only.
Right. Well, that takes us. We said today was going to be a short one, an hour and 11 minutes. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and next week we'll talk about the Lionesses squad and we'll discuss all things about that.